for a while, I would always go, and I would get upset and go, why doesn't this person do this? And I would always come along and push the chair in. And I realized, hang on a minute, why am I getting bent out of shape about this? This person is not important to them, and it's a little thing. So I could either judge them or try and think of the right thing to say to correct their behavior so that they change, or just go, okay, they don't care about that. So what?
Welcome back to the Relationship Done Different podcast. We are all your hosts, Justine McKell, Paula, Christopher. Sorry, this is my last name, not your last name. And Melanie. Hey, our last episode was on the 5 elements of intimacy, and we had such great reaction that we've brought it back for part 2 because we didn't get to really cover the last 2 5 elements of intimacy, which was honor and trust. These tools are revolutionary, like not just having them with other half, like, or as a parent with your kids, but actually, like, these are the secrets to have the best relationship with you. So I don't know if anyone wants to kick it off and talk about like the trust and how you have that trust with yourself and with others. Like, where do you start, Christopher?
Well, I think maybe we start with what trust isn't, because most people think trust is having blind faith. They think trust, if you can trust someone, that means they have your back. And while that may be true, the way we look at it through the lens of Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, he's put these 5 elements together. And what he says trust is knowing that someone will do what they're going to do. Like, say, in the context of a relationship, in my relationship, I can always trust that I will spend a lot more money than my husband. That just is. And expecting me to do otherwise would be like expecting a cheetah to lose its spots. So to start with, I like to give people that idea of, what do you mean? What actually is trust in this context?
That's a great example. I love that. Yeah. And then what about on trust? Like, how do you start trusting yourself if it's not something, how would you advise that to someone?
Great question. Well, you have to get rid of all the projections that you have and of yourself that you should be doing things a certain way. Like, let's say you've decided that it's wrong for you to eat carbs and wrong for you to eat sugar. That's a big one for a lot of people. They judge every mouthful of food that they have. And if there's any carbs or sugar in it, they go, oh no, I'm going to explode like a balloon. And that's wrong. But if, like, talking about this idea of trust, what are you actually going to choose? You say you're going to stop doing this. Like, so many people go, oh, it's Sunday, Monday, I'm going to start the diet. And then Monday comes along and they don't start the diet. And then they get to judge themselves that they're wrong, that they don't have the discipline and they don't have the dedication to do what they say they're going to do. And they're always making these false promises. What if, with trust, you acknowledged what was actually true for you? And instead of trying to force yourself to do these things that you think you should, that you think are the right choices, you go, yeah, but what am I actually going to choose here? What's true for me and what works for me, not what do I think I'm supposed to be and do here.
And that is like the kicker, is that trust is actually what invites you to your awareness. And when we look at, like, people talking about trust in relationships specifically, they're like, oh, like, well, I know they would never cheat on me, or they would never. That's like the one that I think people go to so often, is like, I know that they would never do that. I mean, I know in modern day, there's a lot of variations on the relationship theme. So maybe that's not relevant anymore, but I think it's an easy, relatable go-to kind of point of view. And what's actually true is that if you're willing to have your awareness, you can go into the relationship eyes wide open and create something that actually works for you. So it's not about the boundaries and the safety nets and the will he, won't he, will she, won't she, will they, won't they. It's the like, okay, cool. So what's actually true for me? What do I know is actually going to occur in this relationship? And at that point, when you're willing to acknowledge it, like we've said before, you can change it. So that empowers you to then have a conversation with your partner, a conversation with yourself, with your coworker, whatever that looks like. And then you can actually start to make choices that work for both of you and create greater for both of you.
Is
Or
an
not
example.
Yeah,
Right.
or not change it. Because like sometimes, how many things do you have in your relationship with your partner? The little things that irritate you. Like say, when I get up from a table after we've had breakfast or dinner, I always push my chair in. My husband never does. He just gets up and the chair sits up. And I, for a while, I would always go, and I would get upset and go, why doesn't this person do this? And I would always come along and push the chair in. And I realized, hang on a minute, why am I getting bent out of shape about this? This person is not important to them and it's a little thing. So I could either judge them or try and think of the right thing to say to correct their behavior so that they change, or just go, okay, they don't care about that. So what?
Well, that plays into the other one of the other 5 elements of intimacy, allowance.
Which we talked about last time.
And I'm sure we're going to cover it again at some stage.
Oh my gosh, Chris, I have a similar thing. In the morning I come and open the curtains, and like I've spent time going to open the curtains, and then James comes. He always gets up a little bit later than me, and he comes and redoes the curtains that I've just opened because they're not perfectly on the ground. And he was kind of had a really Nazi upbringing, and I just am like, and the same thing, like just these little things, But we actually went for our first date night, and we laughed about it. Like I said, I just know you're going to do this all the time. And I was like, we joked about it and had a bit of fun rather than letting it get to us. When you're talking about the trust as well, or trust being very similar to trust getting into your allowance, because another great example, I guess, is you know when you shouldn't have gone into a relationship, or you hear about people like that have been married, got divorced, and you ask them a question, did you know you shouldn't have married him at that time? And they say yes. So I guess most people bypass that, or they're like, don't listen to that. But it is really trusting you and what you know.
It can be one of the most daunting things in the world, is to actually go with what you know, because sometimes you're going against the status quo, or you're choosing something a little different. And how often do we actually listen to kind of what we're really aware of? And it's not wrong to have failed relationship or a failed marriage or any of the sort, but I think one of the greatest disservices we do is not actually explore that little ping that we get on some instances. And like you were saying, just kind of blindly go in and hope it all turns out okay.
Yeah. And what about, do we want to bounce to honor yet, or have?
Can I just say one thing about trust? Because I had a conversation with my son not so long ago too, and it was when you're afraid, like not afraid, but like when you don't trust other people that they might do something to you, what don't you trust about yourself? Because a lot of the time we project our behaviors onto other people that might not do it. And I remember having that conversation about trust, and I was like, where don't you actually trust the choices that you're making? Because I don't know, I tried to make one up, but if you're afraid somebody's going to cheat on you, like a lot of the time the people that do that or project it or give their partner or the other person a hard time is usually the person that might actually be the one thinking about it. So I think that's a whole other element too, that I remember when I was talking to him, I was saying, like, just have a look at where you're not willing to do, like be that for yourself, or if you feel like you're going to do it to someone else, you live in fear of somebody doing it to you because you have like a judgment that it's wrong. And like that's a whole other area of trust that I see with people as well, is when it's actually their worst fear of what they'll do, they'll prefer to say that other people will do it to them to justify them making that choice, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Melanie's bringing the heat.
I'm a little bit serious.
She's calling us all out right now.
She's taking us to church.
I know it wasn't light and fluffy, and then I was like, oh no, but no, seriously, like trust is it's a fantastic tool, and I mean we've covered so many different facets of it in a very short space of time, and I think like that it's like when Paula was saying it at the start, I was like, oh no, what you say again? It was about your awareness.
Oh, that your trust leads you to your awareness, like
Yeah.
or actually like it kind of, yeah, I mean that it leads you to your awareness, because you're aware of what you're aware of, but you don't trust it, or you forsake it in like order to like project this thing about what you think your partner will or won't be, or a person will or won't be.
When you use this, what most people have defined trust as, to annihilate your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You say, oh no, I can trust this person.
Mm-hmm.
But quite often when we say that, we're actually limiting what we truly know about this person and what they will or will not choose.
Yep.
Yeah. Is
It's
that
like you said, that
blinking?
blind faith.
Yeah, blind faith.
Yeah. I was just thinking, really playing it down. Is it that blinkers on or blinkers off? Like really, yeah, going into a relationship, being aware of everything. Yeah.
Well, you've made a lot of decisions as well. Like you've decided it has to look this way, and if it goes off track, you've been let down, and I think like even when we're talking here, like we talk about the five elements of intimacy a lot. We spoke about in the last podcast. I'm sure the next one will probably have it in it too, but they're so intertwined, because every time we talk about one, I'm like, and this is where allowance comes in, or they're all kind of like almost married together in some shape or form, because wherever you struggle with one, using other ones kind of gets you to kind of move through it and see, ways that you can actually just have so much more. And I love the way that we myth bust what, like one of them we spoke about before, gratitude, trust with this one, because once we kind of blow it out of the water the way it should look and how it should be, it's so freeing, because we actually get to explore it in a completely different way. And it's like being unshackled from like, being so horrible at relationships, or like interpersonal friendship ones, even our business ones don't have to be romantic. And we actually really get to go in and like with trust, actually go in and ask what's true for us, what do we actually know, and what would we like to create. And having these 5 elements of intimacy, which have nothing to do with kissing, hugging, sex, or nothing like that, and actually really create something really exciting and something that gets you kind of, really going to want to create something rather than tick the box.
I love it. And what about if Chris, you broke down before like what trust isn't. If we move on to the next element of intimacy, honor, I guess what actually is honor? What does that mean in the 5 elements of intimacy, like with yourself or with someone else?
Yeah, so within the context of access consciousness, honor is to treat someone with regard. And it's actually a great thing to talk about with trust, because as Melanie said, they all do sort of intertwine. Like if you want to take a step back before we get to trust, that vulnerability that we spoke on the last podcasts allows you to receive what's true for you, and then you can actually trust what is true for you. And with honor, you don't try to change anyone or yourself and have the point of view that things should be different or there's something wrong. You honor it for what it is. You acknowledge it for what it is and allow it to just be. Like, say, for example, the example that I gave about sugar and carbohydrates, or that judgment cycle of starting the diet on Monday. If you can trust that you're actually not going to choose what you've said you're going to choose, just honor the choice of whatever it is you're doing. Like, when you do something that somewhere in your head you think it's naughty, like you're handing over the credit card to buy that handbag and you go, am I spending too much? Is this crazy? Instead of making yourself wrong for it, my tip to people is just give yourself some allowance, some permission, and honor that you're going to choose what you're going to choose, and giddy up. Makes your life so much easier.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you'll see everywhere, these 5 elements of intimacy, we talk about it a lot in every Relationship Done Different class. If you check out the Instagram page or the Facebook page, Relationships Done Different, and please like and follow us there, because there's so many tools that we post like daily. It is a big key, because if you have these 5 elements of intimacy, most importantly with yourself, you can really create anything, absolutely at all. Is there anything else you want to guys want to share on those 2 before we kind of wrap it up?
I think like I love the conversation that we're having right now about how the 5 elements of intimacy all melt into each other. And one of the things that I know about honor and like the treating with regard is that when you're willing to trust people that they're going to choose what they're going to choose, you're never surprised by what they choose. And so it's easier to honor them and be interesting point of view for whatever it is that they are choosing. Whereas like, I think so often we go to like, if we don't trust ourselves and we maybe don't have trust that people are going to choose what they're going to choose, then we do this like faux being thing where we're like, oh, I can't believe you did that, right? And then we go into like all the drama and we're so mad at them and we're so upset, and we do all this like trauma and drama and upset in relationships where like, whereas if we really get that people just choose what they choose because they can choose it, like that's just there is no, it's not against you, it's not for them, there's not often not any reason that people choose what they choose, they just choose it and because they can. And so like that, I think for me was such a game changer in like the honoring of like, they're not choosing against me, or they're not choosing to prove a point. So I mean, sometimes they are, but like generally speaking, yeah, like they're not choosing to prove a point, they're just choosing because that's who they be. Yeah. And so it's easier to be honoring and just be like, okay, like you go boo boo, like you choose what you're going to choose, you know. It all works together and makes it so much easier. Because I spent a lot of times in my relationships being like, well, why did you do that? Like, talk me through your like thought process. And like, especially for me, like with most of the men that I've been with, they're like, I don't know. Like they just don't have a clue. Like they couldn't even, if they could tell you, they probably still wouldn't, but like, they just can't even explain why they chose what they chose. Like, it's just what they chose in the moment. And so that gift of the 5 elements of intimacy has created so much ease in my relationships, because I don't go to the why. I'm just like, that's what they chose. So I can either be pissed about it, or I can laugh and be like, all right, cool. Like now I have more information.
Totally. Yeah. I'm just realizing another example of this, of how this works. Like in my house, when we go to bed at night, on my side of the bed, I'm a bit of the princess and the pea. Like I like 18 pillows and they're really fluffy and big, and I like to just sort of like luxuriate into them. Whereas my husband likes 1 pillow. So, okay, I can trust that. I can trust that I'm going to want 18 pillows and he's going to have 1 pillow. Honor is when you go, cool, here's your 1 pillow. Instead of, don't you see how comfortable my side is? My way is so great. Isn't this better? You should be doing it this way. What's wrong with you that you only like 1 pillow? Honor is going, cool, that's what you want? Here.
If you're happy, I'm happy.
I love that. That is a brilliant example to leave it on. And I guess also everywhere I don't choose to be the 5 elements of intimacy with myself, let it go. And what can we all do moving forward to choose that and have more allowance, gratitude, vulnerability, honor, and trust with ourselves? Thank you everyone so much for joining us on another episode of the Relationship Done Different podcast. Follow, like us, join us on Instagram and Facebook, Relationships Done Different. Once again, thanks so much for listening and joining us, and thanks for being here. We'll be back again next week.